Good evening. It's been a while since I made a video, but it felt important to make this one because a lot of bad things are happening in the world and it's freaking some ExJWs witnesses out. Often when bad things happen in the news, we can get triggered. So if you're watching this video in the future, or haven't been watching the news lately, I will kind of hit some of the high points, stuff that's been in the news lately. First of all, we have hurricanes. Hurricane Harvey was the first one hitting Texas, Belize, Louisiana, Honduras. Now we have Hurricane Irma, which is Category 5, heading towards Florida. It's been to Puerto Rico and Antilles. Next up is Hurricane Jose. It's a Category 4 hurricane, so they're kind of just lining up, all these hurricanes. Meanwhile, you have flooding around the world that's not related. I mean, the hurricanes themselves are causing flooding, but there's additional flooding not related to typhoons or hurricanes, namely flooding in India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sierra Leone, which is getting double the usual amount of rain, and Pakistan, as I understand it, is getting 5 times the normal amount of rain. You also have forest fires in Montana, Washington, Oregon, Los Angeles, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia. Meanwhile, you have all kinds of political unrest. People are concerned about politics in the United States. It's really heated. You got the left and the right kind of hitting this high pitch of disgust and anger towards each other. And now you have concerns about North Korea, where we have missile testing for the first time. And even that's causing artificial earthquakes. So there's a lot happening, and it's impossible not to notice it. And it can be triggering for ExJWs witnesses. I see people posting in forums asking, do any of you ever worry, what if they're right? What if Jehovah's Witnesses are right? What's that about? Intellectually, we know that they aren't right. So why are we having that thought? Well, the response that most people give when this topic comes up is that's just the brainwashing. The old brainwashing is still rearing its ugly head. It's going to take years to get past that. I'm not a big fan of the word brainwashing, but there's something to that. I mean, we have certain neural pathways in our brain that are deeply embedded because of thinking a certain way for years and years. If you were raised in it, it's shaped the way you think. So it's very understandable. But let's go a little deeper and talk about some of the implications here. Think about how I started this video. Kind of sounded like the beginning of a public talk, didn't it? Listing off all the terrible things that are happening. The kind of public talks I'm talking about. They start off with a long list trying to prove how bad the world is and make it seem throughout the talk that there's just nothing we as humans can ever do to solve the problems that we have on the earth right now. And then make it abundantly clear that mankind's only hope is God's kingdom. And that if God's kingdom didn't come, no one would survive. So you're given 2 options. Either man who can't succeed, or God who will succeed. God's kingdom. Jesus Christ and these armies coming. They're going to get rid of all wickedness. Now, it's a public talk, so they're not going to say what that means precisely, which is that 99.9% of the world population is going to die. But it's put in this positive light that it's something that we should look forward to. That when we see these bad things happening, it means that our deliverance is near, and that there's going to be a cleansed new earth any minute now, So the effect that that has for believing Jehovah's Witnesses, the effect that it used to have for us, is that we get excited. We would get excited when we saw terrible things happening in the news. You know, there might be some talk about, oh, I hope the brothers and sisters are okay. You know, we'd wait to hear news from the branch about how the local branch helped this congregation or whatever, or, you know, so-and-so amount of people died. But beyond that, we didn't really worry about it. It was just exciting, good news. It meant that this proves that our beliefs are true, that the end really is coming. I mean, I know that's the effect it had on me. I mean, I had doubts all the time. So anything that could confirm my beliefs, you know, I would latch on to that. I mean, it's almost like we were standing on a second iceberg watching the Titanic sinking and applauding as it all goes down. That's the attitude of a believing Jehovah's Witness. Now, if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, everything's different now. We know that God's kingdom isn't coming, so to speak. That the whole thing, 1914, it's all based on a lie. So when you've been taught to believe that humans can never solve their own problems, and you no longer believe that God's kingdom is going to step in and fix everything, again by killing 99.9% of the population, it can feel like we're doomed when you hear bad news. You know, you have that dichotomy in your mind. Humans can't fix it, only God can. And then when you don't believe God's going to fix it, what options does that leave? So it's scary. And I think that maybe instead of it just being about what if they're right, it's really about missing that excitement, missing that certainty that our deliverance is at hand. And being faced with the fact that we as humans are the only hope. We have to fix this. You know, some people believe that God's kingdom works through humans. Other people are more humanist in that they believe that the onus is 100% on us, that there's nobody looking out for us. In either case, the God's kingdom narrative Jehovah's Witnesses preach, that ain't happening. So it's up to us, and that can be scary. We've been taught not to have faith in humanity, not to believe in the goodness of humans and the potential for progress. I remember when I was first waking up and having a lot of anger, realizing that my beliefs were not true, and the sense that I didn't believe in anything because I was told not to believe in science. I was told not to believe in politics. I was told not to believe in myself. And then when I didn't believe in the Jehovah's Witness narrative anymore, the one thing I was supposed to put my faith in, it felt like I didn't have faith in anything. And it was scary, and I remember crying a lot when I had that realization. But since then, I guess I've become a lot more hopeful. I don't know how things are going to turn out. You know, there are things I'm concerned about. But in the end, I do have hope. I really think that humans can do it. You know, we're muddling through it. But the fact is, things are better now than they ever have been. That's the real good news. Although you go through these periods where bad stuff is happening, overall, we're living in the best time in history. And I'll put some links in the description below to support that. Another thought is that when you leave an organization that is champing at the bit for the Great Tribulation and Armageddon, you can now nurture your humanity in a way that you never could before. You know, we're no longer kind of grotesquely foaming at the mouth watching these bad things happen, we can actually feel something more human. We can feel pity in a way that we didn't before. We can do it without the distraction of just focusing on all those people are going to die soon and then I can live forever. You know, we can have just a genuine empathy for all that's happening. A tragedy is just a tragedy. It's not a reason to celebrate. So I think you become more human and less driven by the Watchtower parasite, probably more so every year. Let that parasite die. You know, do some research into how much better things are getting. And that doesn't mean that I think you should just be all rose-colored glasses about it and not think that anything bad is going to happen or the things are going to sort themselves out on their own. You know, in the past we were sitting on the sideline waiting for God to do everything. You know, stand still and see the salvation of Jehovah. Well, that doesn't fix anything. If everybody sits on the sidelines, nothing changes. You know, there are real problems. You know, a lot of the things that I listed at the beginning of the video relate to climate change. That's a real problem. And things need to change. You know, things happening on the political scene, these are things to really be concerned about. So if they really bother you, now that you're not a Jehovah's Witness anymore, you can get involved. Rather than sitting on the sidelines waiting for an imaginary Great Tribulation to start, if you really want to see things improve, get involved politically and socially. Get involved with your local community, trying to make a difference. Give thought to how you use this planet. Help your neighbor, regardless of their belief system. You know, we can actually provide genuine help now, rather than just seeking to indoctrinate people into our belief system. And if you sometimes get confused by old thought patterns, that's totally understandable. You're rewiring your brain. And you're rewiring it for the better. You're going to be a better person because of it. You're going to be part of humanity in a way that you never could be before. That's something to be excited about. Yes, it's scary sometimes, but that's part of the human experience. You know, when you're not living in a fantasy world, you have to deal with it sometimes. But you're going to be okay. And don't worry. Although the sun is going to turn into a red giant in 4 or 5 billion years, before that, things are probably going to just keep on going. The end is not coming. Jehovah's Witnesses are not right. So with that, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. It's been nice catching up, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.